We are live. Fambulem, una good evening, and this na Psycho John with the then and now program. Una no say we've been just like 1 hour ago. We postponed this program. We've been not advertised to una say we've been get for discourse about the coup we happened in Niger and the reaction from the ECOWAS member states, France and the US. But we've been postponed am because of one of and two things that been happen. But the program will be really intended for discuss me and Prince Crewman. But unfortunately for now, we not able get Prince because of one or two things. But it's maybe we will join we, but we dey go uh, with the program. So una stay tuned, una stay connected as we dey bring this program to una. This na Psycho John Barry, and I dey ask una while we una dey listen, then una for share at the same time. We dey appeal to una for make una share to many people. So stay tuned. We'll be back soon. Okay, Fambulem, una ado. This na Cycle John again. The canto una ade, we can continue the program. As una know, una do hear few days ago, the Nigerian, that na Niger, then they call it Niger. Some people they call it Niger, some people they call it Niger. So the army don't overthrow the president na Niger, and Niger with Nigeria then share a border with then Chad and then other country in the Sahel region. Uh, so they overthrow them president. But we see where they overthrow, like normal, of course, the international community condemn especially the US, France, and other country them. But as soon as una know, uh, recently we see the increase of military coups in Africa, especially West Africa. The Sojaman then they take over, then they take over the military, then they seize power recently. We don't see them na Burkina Faso, we don't see them na Guinea, and then now we don't see am na Mali, we don't see am now na Niger. So it's like this thing very serious, and then it's like democracy na West Africa dey at stake. So, but we see again, like, okay, the coup wey don happen na Mali. We see how the international community respond. Wey happen na Guinea Conakry. We see how they respond. Okay, but recently we see where, for example, where ECOWAS been go na Burkina this place here, na Guinea Bissau. We see the way and we hear the way they were then ECOWAS them wey they elect Bola Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, for be the ECOWAS chairman. We hear the threats wey he make. He say, I get for come to una, I get for quote for una wetin Bola Tinubu been say at the time na during the meeting na Niger, na Burkina Faso, this place here na Guinea Bissau. Una sorry, I dey try for do something there at the same time while I dey try for share more the links to many people, and that make I dey lost focus a bit. But una sorry about that, and then okay, I think they are there on track now. Yeah, so we hear wey the president of Nigeria, wey na Bola Tinubu, where he say, well, now they no longer, they know they accept again, they know they encourage military coups na Africa, especially West Africa again. So, and Inote, like it's just like the Nigerian army, them in the wait for make Bola Tinubu talk with he talk, then we see the coup d'etat will happen, where they overthrow now the president Bassoum of Niger. So again, we see swiftly, we see uh, the the French and the US, them be very strong, them be very very passionate over this thing. This coup will happen, so they condemn them. In fact, they say them for reverse that coup. So we see again where the ECOWAS on, I think on Sunday, then hold a meeting. Usai then say, well, they don't give the Niger, the army, they don't give them 7 days for handover power. One, for left the president, because 10 hours we speak, so the president they under their young custody. So the ECOWAS then give them 7 days for say, okay, now listen, guys, una get for left this man, una get for restore constitutional order, una get for restore democracy, because this man was elected few years ago, he not do nothing, una just come overthrow am. We know they encourage that again. We know they encourage military takeover again na West Africa. Una don't pass mark. Okay. But then where that threat they happen, we see again where yesterday the military guided from then Burkina Faso now, Mali, Guinea, for they all pledged their support for the Nigerian army. In fact, they say any, like they know they then the support, then condemn first the ECOWAS, then for say then they go attack Niger for go reverse that that outing self the coup, and they also condemn the sanction where ECOWAS then impose. Then say then they like really nice, and in fact what they say the Mali and Burkina Faso then say, in fact, then shock because ECOWAS Sidon, instead for make them help, like okay, like Burkina Faso and Niger and Mali, then they come under terrorist attack, but they were not do nothing for help them. They not do the ECOWAS not do much for help them country then they, but now then they talk for go reverse a coup will happen na Niger. So then to them, they see that there's double standard. So they say, in fact, then they ready an attack on Niger. Like then say go ready. In fact, they mobilize the army for defend, for help for defend Niger. So basically, then they support the of course, because then say a military junta them. Then say they support the coup na Niger. So you dey see the situation now where like okay, ECOWAS them find themselves in, because on the one hand now we get the military guys where they don't establish themselves, like Mali now, Burkina Faso, Chad. Interestingly, after the meeting, the ECOWAS meeting na Nigeria, the Chadian president, he go na Niger, but he go on a peace mission for go talk to them and like persuade them for make their handover. So, but you himself na military man, say where them kill him papa na war front, so him end up for take power. Okay, but you dey see now, like more or less, if you say them go don't form a club, like because now they all get common interest. The Burkina Faso in a military one young bobo with Guinea, Dumbuya, and then Mali. So you dey find out say they were now in the back each other, because then go believe say, well, the moment ECOWAS succeed for remove the guidance na Mali na Niger, so definitely they no go be safe. Even though the situation now a bit different, because Guinea, of course, then they on a transitional path. They don't give time. Wait them for handover. Them country, then they all don't give time. So now, and some man they argue say, well, this Nigerian incident happened after the president of Nigeria, when Bola Tinubu, don't want strictly say they know they encourage again military takeover in Africa. But what in the critical thing? I've been doing an article on that. I've been doing an article where really, well, maybe take different views. I not support military government. I not support them, and I know they support them. But that no means I dey go into issues. I dey look at issues like blind man. No, I have to be critical, look at things critically. So I dey discuss the article, the issues them wey me talk about. I connect that day with the interest wey France get, the interest wey the US get, then European countries dem. And I dey also link am to with democracy, whether now you call am genuine democracy or you call am so-called democracy wey we dey practice na Africa or na West Africa. It depends on how you look at am. You check the leaders dem wey dey condemn the wire, talk against the military coup. Okay, so whether really they are Democrats, whether really then they practice democracy, you ask yourself, because by and that I get for look into. So Fambulem, una we welcome una all. We don't get many people where they watch, and we dey ask una again still for continue for share the links. Una share the links to as many people as una can. This na the then and now program. Una know say we always dey bring una issues them, we dey analyze issues for una. So this na the then and now program. So let we start with wetin dey happen na Niger. The US, like una all know, well, in the name of fighting terrorism na the Sahel region, that more or less up way from Niger now up go to North Africa, like Mali, Burkina Faso, Algeria, Tunisia, then country, then they all now then they call the Sahel region. Okay, so we dey find out say lot of activities, terrorist activities, dey na that region. They take inside Nigeria, like we get them Boko Haram guy dem. Say dem say dem be very active na that region. They take inside Niger back them in the camp, incursion bin dey happen there. So they find out say recently wey Mali, for example, dem fall apart with France. Say na France na dem colonize most of them French country dem dey, or all of them. So dem bin get military bases na dem side dem dey, and dem bin boku dem get interest na that region dey. But they find out say wey dis soldier man dem take over na Mali first, dem people dey like really dem no be happy with the French guy dem. So dem kick them out. So the French soldier dem be, some of them been dey na Burkina Faso, dem been dey there, but later back wey Burkina Faso dem overthrow, dem kick them out, dem say dem no want dem dey. So they all go, like as I dey speak, so the French then get about 1,500 military man them na Niger. So the US back then say get them yo. But wetin na the tricky thing? Inside Niger now get a valuable mineral wey na dem call uranium. This uranium here, then they make out so many things. Boku thing them. Where really, if the leaders them of that country, they na serious people them, na serious leader them, na leader they will elect them country. Like Nigerians, I know they say they're not for suffer, but at least the country for relatively be okay. Because that uranium then they use like that nuclear power. Then can use them for make nuclear bomb, that material there, but then can at the same time use the same material for that civilian nuclear power station for give electricity na countries dem. Interestingly, France na mainly uranium wey comot from Niger na im dem dey use na dem country for electrify dem country. E dey provide about more than 50 or so percent for wetin say electricity. Okay, like Europe, the European Union, EU countries dem sef dey rely on heavily on Nigerian uranium. So you dey see the connection. Lot of companies dem dey America back get dem get companies dem wey dey work dey mine dat uranium dey go and na their own country. So you dey find out say dis na key thing, because how why make dis thing important to dem? Two things back. Because one, you dey find out say the EU, for example, dem dey try for disconnect themselves with Russia. You know say Russia na dem dey support, na the largest wetin say dem dey support Europe. When I say, well, na dem dey buy gas and oil and then thing dem dey for electricity na na the European countries dem. So wetin this war now, e affect a lot. So now wetin now, like for now, that nuclear, that uranium wey dem dey use now for get civil or civilian nuclear wetin sef wey dey generate electricity na their own country. You dey find out say dat dey at least go help, because now if let say e cut off na Niger, still na big problem for France, because dem go get electricity problem, especially when dem wan reduce now. One, dem dey try for rely on wetin dem call renewable energy, you know, and now dem dey all dem thing dem dey back now for reduce the reliance, or you call am dependence, on Russian oil and gas. So for make dat dey cut off na Niger, for example, that supply dey cut off, so e dey really put them in a difficult situation. So you dey find out say it's really like, okay, na a tough thing for them. And then also, you know say now dem bin get military base na dem side dem dey, but dem don kick them na most of the like dem country, Mali, Burkina Faso. So you dey see the trend. And now, not only that, not only wey dem don kick them out na dem side dem dey, but also the side who side dem pull them, like Mali, then you dey find out say Russia dey come all take over, because now Russia, you know say French military dem bin dey na Mali. So where the French dem comot, they will get the Russian mercenaries guys wey dem dey call the Wagner group. So dem don take over. So Burkina Faso back na the same thing. So now the other question now, if for example wey dem military Guyana and Niger don take over, dem go, of course dem don vex, because America and they were with ECOWAS say dem dey go reverse the coup, or like America, France, dem dey support ECOWAS, but make ECOWAS go reverse that coup dey. So the guy dem don really dem say they're ready for defend the country. So meaning that they go lead to other different things. For example, we see where the military guy them, they mobilize them people them. Lot of people them come on Sunday. They really come out, them protest, them go to the French embassy, them broke windows them, and them being the, in fact, them been get the Russian flag. Then get the Russian flag, now in them in the display. So then they tell you something. So now we see after the coup, where the French president say, well, of course, anybody want for what he said, then interest, then they talk about their own interest, then they not go agree for the person, then thing in there. But also, the US also. So I write an article on that. I ask questions relating democracy na West Africa. I ask questions surrounding how elections are held in West Africa. We don't see elections, and don't happen, they don't pass. So I ask me question why the issues were raised na me articles, for example. I say whether na democracy ECOWAS the lack na in the one for maintain and continue, or the one for protect the interest of the West. So European Union, France in particular, and then the US. So I ask that question there. And then I raise also other issues them way, of course, it depends on some man they look at them, then they vex, some man they okay with them. But I ask questions as to now I say, for example, if the country them, for example, the West or ECOWAS, then they frown at military them for takeover. I say then for equally so frown at politicians them where they use electoral process for rig elections and kind of power. I say some of the military coups will happen now West Africa Day, which lead to that. I said a president they working come first, then they come, then they change the constitution. We see what happened in Guinea, Alpha Conde. He don't dey for 10 years. He changed the constitutions. I said then they can lead to coup. I say, but now, also you see what thing Alassane Ouattara do. Yeah, they nothing no happen. They peaceful so far, but these are all things that we know really nice for democracy because you come, you rule. Of course, any country get the way you want, way they go want for govern themselves, but we get for respect. We own laws the move we will make. Okay, so for example, I say the essence of democracy. Now for give citizens them voice. Now for make citizens them able for elect the leaders. Make citizens them vote for the leaders. That's now the most important thing for democracy. For make citizen any leader we dey, make e be say this leader na the people them, the citizens them, na them vote for am, na they make it kind of power. I say, but a military man will take use the gun for kind of power with that person, that politician, where he use whether na incumbent or opposition or whosoever, where abuse the electoral process, where spoil the union electoral laws, including in constitutions, where rig elections, where people, let's say, they cooked up elections result, or some areas then they no count waiting the people then vote. In essence, any elections where the results not reflect the aspirations, the desires of the voters, I say any leader will come as a result of that. I say that person he's equal, the person will equally be an illegitimate government, just like the military. I say so if the West, for example, or ECOWAS, they're really serious, that same energy wey dem get for say we dey go reverse military coup, dem forget equally so the same energy for reverse any civilian government wey can through power, especially when all they will say all observers dem condemn say no, but this not fair, this not credible, this not to the right thing. I say dem forget the same energy for reverse such elections or government for tell them say no, una either conduct, una do a rerun, una conduct elections where the views and the aspirations of the people will reflect. So that was my argument. I say, but for una dey sit down, una dey see. In fact, ECOWAS, I tell ECOWAS say, then now dem can be the first for congratulate government them wey don carry any kind, whether na rikishi wey dem can na power or any kind way, na dem first they can dem congratulate them. But now wey coup happen, now then they grapple now, then begin say we no dey gree. That now one. The other thing, I see double standard on the sides of the West. So now, coup don't happen na Mali, coup don't happen na Burkina Faso, coup don't happen na Guinea. We know say, for example, Guinea then get a big army. We know say again, we agree. We know say again sanction, then don't impose sanction na Guinea and then country are all. But we not see the strength, the energy, the zest, or the enthusiasm where the French and the US government get. You know, they no show that strength where they get now. The enthusiasm for democracy, the love for democracy, where they try for tell we say they get now. For support ECOWAS at that time, for go reverse them coup. They no do it. They we not go say them being quiet because ECOWAS they don't go sanction and all that thing. But that zeal, that voting self will not see. Of course, critical minds again can argue say no, but then get for draw the line. So then go draw the line on Niger. Then go, therefore say, you know what? This thing we don't know say only sanction no they able for curtail, for stop them coup d'etat. So that's why now we ready for use a military force for reverse this coup. But again, let people remember what will be the consequence. Una imagine that a whole army una they go fight. A whole army. Una they go, you know mean say we una go, let's say una go bomb the capital city, una take the fight done, then don't say no, it don't una thank you for reverse the coup. Consequence day. People then go the way sometimes the army go relocate, then go different side. So Fambula Italek say we they get Prince Crewman, maybe let's see. But where he join we will make una know. But like what have been the try for say? You know me say we una go today na the Niamey una don't go pull that man all in London, case London. No. Hello, Prince.
Yes, Eku.
Okay, yeah. So Fambulem we don't get Prince Crewman, the CEO of then and now Media Empire, you don't join we. So yeah, like I've been done. They discuss like this issue will be one for can discuss together. I don't know whether you've been the follow or not, but like I've been on go up now to a level where they try for say okay, people then get for ECOWAS get for look at the consequence. Now, not to forgo, you know they go pull that man. Okay, you know go pull this military guy like fall. Say okay, I don't pull him out, or like where somebody they pull rotten teeth na pussy mouth. Say the other one they know they react. They all they just dumb and quiet. I say because now you're talking about for go pull somebody, they go fight a whole national army. What thing go be the ramifications? What thing go be the repercussion? Then I go can no more okay then agree no more you pull this you pull that man the president or the former president now you reinstate him then the military all say okay una thank you una go back. You dey hearing me?
Okay. Okay. Yes, yes, Sekou John, hearing you, and many thanks for holding the fort. The fort means the hub of the conversation, which is TNN. Really very proud of you. I've said this many a times, and I say this again today. So I'm not going to follow the story from the onset, but I do have an idea of what we talk about. So if I can just try for intimating, if I go wrong, please feel free for draw me back by the shirt collar because this is what it implies. That's what is called a good friend. Where you make mistake, and they hold you by the shirt. It's like shut up, shut the hell up. You the blunder. That's what it is. But again, for come back to this, in terms of the ramification, I hold a very strong view on exactly what in happen. Once we get a condemnation of coup plots, and especially when it comes to Africa, but we also get for look at what they precipitate the coup plot. So we did against them, but why it happen? And in this point in time, why it don't become a highlight? Where since 2020, we don't get about 7 coup plots in Africa, i.e., Burkina Faso, Guinea Conakry, Mali, and few other countries, them are not able to name all of them on top of my head. No actions of this kind or ultimatum of this kind was given. Say we give a week if we're not and XYZ. But before I even go any further, Sekou John, I hear you partly, but towards the end, there is a question where you ask where I not get clearly where I need for address. And if I can ask again, what was that question, please?
Okay. Thank you so much. Fambulem, again, we'll go on for appeal to una make una share the links to as many people as una can. Me, like I've been done touch on Bola Tinubu, the tell way they make a ECOWAS chairman, we've been threatening say, well, they know they encourage military coup again na West Africa. Okay, so like I just explain, but the meeting will happen in reaction to the coup na Niger, and I just explain but the uranium. I know say we get for go, they will go for touch more. The uranium where
Absolutely.
the French then don't invest na Niger. So I don't make that links there, I don't analyze that aspect there, but we get for go day back. So, but what thing I be the try for say now, for example, there why they talk say then they go reverse the coup if the guy then they don't give them 10 days say if they not hand over power, they not reinstate this power or they left arm, then go reverse the coup. So I've been they ask now, I say, okay, this na a military, a whole national army. So is it easy for just reverse that coup dey reinstate somebody then just comot dey like as if you don't go pull, as if like e easy like for go pull teeth, rotten teeth na person in mouth, and then the other teeth then go sit down say okay thank you sir for removing this person. Wetin you feel say go happen?
So first of all, Sekou John, I feel say this not an easy task. And for ECOWAS itself for just come out and say we give una this number of days, that in itself now fitiai and an abrogation of the duty. Because the reason why I say so, there have been since 2020, I think aside that in my introduction when I just joined your program, since 2020, there have been about 6 coup plots. 6 coup plots. They don't ever make this decision say instantly when they can pull them people there will make them coup plots there, i.e. Guinea Conakry, Burkina Faso, Mali, if you were like. No. What is this thing about Niger? Now in people they need for understand. And at that now in I want for make the center of this me introduction into your program about Niger. Me personally believe, say, of course, as a pundit, I do have an opinion, Famulem. Let's get this. And my opinion on this basis is that the French, and not only the French, because I've been saying this for a period of time, you know, the Western world as a whole, they can act instantaneously when the economic interest becomes an existential threat. And this now a one whole topic where we can delve into. We had the issue of Saddam Hussein na Iraq. They sold us something different for making legitimate for go pull and come out, but it was because the legitimate, I mean not legitimate, the economic interest was affected. The same was true of Colonel Gaddafi in Libya a number of years ago. Why? The Western interests, including France being very critical in the removal, the assassination, or murder of an African leader, Gaddafi, when nothing not come up on them. But it be very, very critical. And yet some of us support that idea. They say, oh yes, because it's always divide and rule. Colonialism, neo-colonialism is always about divide and rule. How for confuse people then. But the idea that Colonel Gaddafi in intention was to make Africa great and strong. And as we speak today, then they sell black Africans, people that will look like Sekou John, people that will look like me. They are being sold in open market slavery. Now Libya. All because Colonel Gaddafi maybe they try for initiate a program in which Africa for be the benefactor in many respects, that some of the indignity they already suffer today will have been a thing of the past. But for come to this thing here, is like most of the things them way the ECOWAS they say, such as they give the army of Niger. And mind you, I am not a supporter of coup plots, but as a critical minded person, I go also like for look at why are coup plots becoming a trend of the time, a trend of the day. Are elected officials of African governments through a democratic means represent democracy? These are serious questions that we need for contemplate. And the absence of that, because let's remember, say, once you hold that power there, you're so powerful, you're so strong, the judiciary, the executive, the parliamentary, the police, the army, the finance, money, they're all they under your jurisdiction. And the act for let other people and displace you or dismiss you from that. And this you can use for undermine other people them. And in some cases, either kill them, dismiss them, jail them, or what have you. It is in this instance that when the democracy of a country is threatened, now that position they now in the army can use for come and justify why then they intervene. Because let's remember, the army get two, if not more, of a kind of duty of operation. Duty of operation, I mean, like for example, you get your army in your country. The reason why your army can intervene now, if the existence of a country or there's an aggression against your country, now the army in your business one day. But also within the country itself, if nothing cannot hold, in other words, the civility we're supposed to exist in the form of democracy, there are ifs and buts and contradictions and many other things that they go on, the army can usurp power. That not me say correcto, because when the army take over, the constitution will make provision for every one of us. When we habeas corpus we write, is suspended immediately, and a martial law now in the rule. Now make most of we kick against the the army government. But the army government now, when they come in most cases them, now because there is a breakdown of law and order or respect for the constitution. In this case, na Ayukola Niger, there is a breakdown of constitutional order. The army don't take over. Surely when the army take over, then they suspend the rights of constitution will protect the people. But waiting actually they happen in Niger, Sekou John, is bigger than most of us tend for understand, because it is about colonialism. It's about neo-colonialism. The French, they enjoy electricity in their country as a consequence of the exploitation of Niger. Niger, we need for understand, say, now then they produce something what we call yellow cake. What's in a yellow cake? Yellow cake, now uranium. The French energy system is based, I repeat, on uranium reactor. If you get reactor, them nuclear reactor, they are powered by uranium. Also, they get uranium now from Niger.
So,
So
but
whilst
you get for
one of
modify
every three light bulbs,
yeah, you get for modify am because that is civil. Then they use them for a civilian purpose for
oh
generating
yeah,
electricity.
absolutely. Yeah, that's true. But the bottom
Mhm.
line is that energy there for civilian purpose, which is a good thing, but it come out at the expense of another country. And
Mhm.
that country now they enjoy a similar benefit or even a quarter of that benefit there, which the other person will not get that facility they enjoy. But yet now then they produce the energy. Niger not get even 10% of a grid of electricity for letting people enjoy. But yet France, they enjoy this. Some people then go say, but of course, not of France, their own problem. No, I disagree. It is the French problem. Why is it the French problem? Because the French are the colonial masters and so they design them. But their interest is so affected economically and in many other ways that they even threaten for invade another, civilian country, another sovereign country, another independent country, a country where the same France be said and give independence to. But Sekou, the interesting thing about this is in terms of the present geopolitics of the world, there have been few countries where stand up to France, say, not even France, because France strengthened for intervene, and they know they cannot do that because that will be a bully, and that will not be entertained, and that will be an infraction of international law. So what they try for doing now for put pressure on the African community, i.e. ECOWAS, in which a man, Tinubu, whose election is being questioned at the courts of Nigeria,
Okay,
they come and say, we will go
Prince, before you go further, I just want to read for you something, a report where I've been read just now from Al Jazeera. You be the talk about Tinubu. Let just say because we all know how elections. So this now for emphasize on the leaders there, yeah, the African, the West African leaders there, yeah, where they can talk about say, okay, we want for reverse this coup, yeah, because now military coup. But look what happened. Where then they say now, yeah, okay, Tinubu say, let's just spend this year.
Please do.
Okay, now Yana Tinubu be the talk say we must stand firm on democracy. There is no governance, freedom, and rule of law without democracy. So Tinubu na in say this, he make this statement where them be elect him na this place here for be the chairman for the ECOWAS na this place Guinea Bissau. Okay, but they say now his victory that na Tinubu now. Now they say, okay, when I listen, this policy where they talk about democracy, say they want go reverse the coup na Niger. When I listen, what they talk, they say his victory in the February presidential election is being contested by the two largest opposition parties who cite widespread electoral malpractice and claim he was ineligible to run. So and all man know how the elections been happen in Nigeria and other African countries them how they can power. So Prince, I don't say you not been get this. I've been not talk about them, but I think I need for go day back. I've been do an article. I say now the essence of democracy. Now for make the citizens them vote for the leaders. Make the leaders then come as it pleases the voters na the any given country. So how you they reconcile a civilian, a politician where he can through some kind rikishi and crooked electoral process where them ballot stuffing and all kind thing. That person, the how you go, what's the relationship between that kind leader and a military person who just use the gun for kind of power?
Sekou, that's a good point, and many thanks for asking that question. So first of all, in the case of Tinubu and others, it's a question of moral authority. Moral authority is a very critical component in the part of democracy. We know boku things can be rikishi, but when it becomes so obvious and outrageous, such as waiting with the no, it's a no-go. Tinubu get questions about in the Nigerian elections. But obviously, in terms of the bureaucracy or the status quo, now in the elected chairperson for ECOWAS, so he is the chair. So in terms of that, he get for act in consonance with the chairmanship of ECOWAS. But if you don't get moral authority, you become laughable. You won an election, we're still in a court, and they try for justify your legitimacy. How can you then come for preside on the sanctity the morality of other things them, or things them way other people and consider for be moral. When you don't get the moral compunction, you are not, you don't have that dignity, you don't have that morality for judge others. Like for example, in the Bible, there were people that were question, morality, and begin for talk about certain things that will not be right. Of course, I am Christian, but the point why they try for make is like at that point in time, Jesus say anybody will feel say they get the moral compunction, let them throw the first stone. And I think say them they try for criticize a woman when they call a prostitute. Now the Bible, then condemn them and etc. And then Jesus Christ say, "Who are you? Here for condemn because you are equally guilty of lacking moral ethics. But if you think say you're so moral, then you cast the first stone." And there was nobody for cast the first stone because everybody was kind of guilty in some shape, sense, or form. It's the same thing with Tinubu and this group of people and with the inside ECOWAS. Tinubu not get any moral grounds for go judge other people. And this is the thing, Sekou, which is wrong with democracy. We want to go lecture other people, but you where they go lecture, say, I think there is a saying, and correct me or please try for help me. He who comes to equity must come with clean hands.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And this is deep. This is real. You have to come with clean hands if you want to judge other people, and if you want to come with equity. Other than that, who are you? And this is the situation. But what this looks like to me is there are two folds to it. The French government, or part of the Western side of things, because we also get for keep this. And when I get the chance again,
Okay,
because I'm at the
Prince,
beginning of the
I know,
program, then maybe
Prince, I know cut you off, but I just want to tell you, say it's not only about France.
go ahead.
It's not only French interest. Remember, say the US back get the own. But let me tell you something. Today, what I've been they read about it. Then say Niger was the EU's second largest supplier of natural uranium in 2022. Imagine EU, not of France no more, the EU.
Sekou, before you go forward,
Mm-hmm.
let us not get confused. Not just talk about was the largest supplier of uranium. For the interest of the audience, can you please tell we waiting a uranium, what it mean, what it represent?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that we
yeah.
understand this.
I've been not talk that day back earlier on. For example, say that uranium then they use them for make so many things. But with the focus on, of course, then they use them for make then nuclear bomb and other thing them. Then get other military hardware as well. Then they use for make them with. And then, but waiting now the West they focus on for make that for use for make uranium. Now that for civilian purpose, that now for generate electricity. So imagine now Europe, EU, Niger, this uranium na EU the second largest supplier. Na Niger they supply them. Imagine EU na the second. Niger na the second largest supplier. So now watch. And now what to make this thing more important for for France and the EU and the US? You remember say now we get Russia and the way Europe being rely on for electricity, this gas business for generate electricity. But now they get problem and they want reduce their reliance on Russia. So let's say no more now where this Ukraine Russia war starts, we know what mean they happen, and we know 30 days we get now electricity where prices they go up then and day. Now let's say now Russia then get one problem yanda, and then now this thing can cut off back from Niger. So how Europe go get electricity now when a regular electricity?
Once again, you are absolutely right. But there's been a situation of a relationship which is transactional and exploitative, never really equal. So most of European countries, them then they depend on the source of energy is nuclear. And for power the nuclear machines, now uranium. Niger happened for be one African country which is blessed with one of the many resources them where the Western world they look for. In this case now, what we talk about, the French as colonial master inside Niger been the benefit, the deal them when they signed regarding this uranium, the extraction of uranium now Niger are largely secret. As we speak today, not very many of us know about the deal because they are kept secret. In other words, the French is benefiting hugely, 99.99%, whilst the people where they make the provision of the raw material, where the power energy, now France, they are at a disadvantage. So part of the reason we make the coup popular, the French first of all are becoming unpopular, or the colonizers them in Africa are becoming more and more unpopular now Africa, and the French are becoming seriously unpopular now French related former territories. The Burkina them and the Mali and them, they actually expel the French people from out of their
Mhm.
country for meddling in their business, exploiting their businesses, and etc. They expel them. Part of the force the way they expel na Burkina Faso or Mali, the French soldier man them or military asset them, they're still there inside the same Niger, about 150 or 200 of them. They are there. But the French are so incensed because of waiting and stand for lose. And like I've been say, in France, statistically speaking, every 3 light bulb that are powered energy-wise inside France, one of them now as a consequence of uranium extracted from Niger. A fambulem, I need for repeat that again so it will sink in for let we understand. Remember, say France na huge country, and when they talk about statistically speaking, every 3 light bulb na France, one of them is powered by uranium extracted from Niger. So when this coup take place, which is hugely French unfriendly, in other words, the people that we stay in the coup, the population here, they are anti-French. And the reason why it comes back to the issue of colonization and decolonization. Colonization, Formulan, do we understand that since African countries were given their independence, or they begin for giving independence some 60 or some more years ago, 30 the French colonial countries are still paying colonial tax because somebody being own you at one point illegally. And that done some 60 or some more years. But because they may own you, you still they pay them colonial tax. It does not only end there. Then French countries there, they still they use French money, the franc. Then they use franc. And when they use somebody money, not to free you, they pay for it. Imagine you get you independence, but you they pay for use their money. It doesn't only stop there, but the people in reserve, the French country, they are francophone, then we call them, they reserve currency. Now France now they keep them, and then they pay for let France keep their money. And when they want money for use money, France they credit them out of their own money, and then they pay interest on top of their own money. Now, who's can big fool way past this big fool here, and where people and then they catch up to this day. That when they catch up now and say no, 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 but this one the pass mark. Then you get other people and where they say, well, no, 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 yeah, this colonial power them and one have you. I mean, we're not right. We need for continue for deal with them only because they provide sanctity for the few, not the many, including myself. Because I can't live in the Western world, I'm not supposed to criticize them. Yet the bulk of people that will look like me this program, then they suffer as a consequence of their policy there. How long can you go along with this?
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Prince Crewman. This is a very brilliant submission. Also, again, we don't see, for example, this topic here, they separate these issues with democratic process where they happen now, West Africa. We see recently Nigeria, Sierra Leone, other countries where elections happen. We see where international observers then condemn the process, say transparency issues, enough free and fair, credible. But we see politicians them and then supporters them. They tell we say, and even leaders them, political leaders, big political leaders, they tell you say, now are they quote unquote na Europe na colonial mentality na in the way man dem get na im make dem dey tell we say we elections dem no transparent, in fact let dem go to hell, as if they were not a key development partners or other thing. So dem condemn them. But at the same time, we dey see say now it's not ECOWAS, whether na im make I ask na my article whether na law for democracy or na for protect either they your interest or then they seek legitimacy from them wire or now the wait man their interest. But now what in hypocritical, what I will ask you so now for? Now on the one hand, you they tell we say there were now colonial mentality na dem get in the interfere now with your internal process. Let them come on, let them set them out. So but then same people here where you been the accused say let them go follow them business. Now then they tell you say okay, we dey give una money, they support una go pull una company, una go invade na other country. How you see that?
So first of all, and I think that I'm part of the conversation here on the topic matter tonight, an issue of double standard. Of course, there are double standards. The bottom line is so simple. It's because the relationship is exploitative. It is not a fair relationship. Now, a relationship where one side they profit as against the other. The issue here is the side where they profit. Now, the side we not get almost nothing, but just sell we an idea in which the side where they make the produce available, where you use the means or the backing with substance. Let we talk, for example, BRICS, this new nationhood where they develop in terms of a countermeasure to the West, in terms of global dominance, the dollar. So you talk about producing another currency or something else, which consists of 5 nations: Brazil, Russia, South Africa, China, and somebody else, India, BRICS. Such is the kind of same thing that people are getting fed up with, the dominance of one side and people waking up to the reality. Going back to your article that you wrote, your article was really brilliant. And this is what people need to understand. Unfortunately, simple. The issue here is if you were to send a short text on this program where you the host here tonight, but it not go down well with other people, and not necessarily that it need for go down with other people, it's just an issue of fact. In this case, what do I mean by an issue of fact? Let us look at geopolitics, for example. You're not siding any side, but the reality is what is happening. And what is happening is, look at Niger, for example. There is a coup there. I'm sure you don't support, because I know you get democratic values in you, so you don't support coup plots. But as a critical mind person, you look at, well, okay, the coup plot happened. Why did it happen? I sure say you go look at that. That does not imply that you support the coup plot, but you're just having a critical mind. But just by you holding that mindset for ask, why did the coup plot happen? Because you will get people in. We just want to let you condemn the coup. But yes, you condemn the coup, but you equally ask, well, wait, why this coup plot happened? You are being victimized. You are being labeled. You are being called names. You wrote an article which stood, in your opinion, very objective. And if anybody disagree, read the article of St. John. Was he trying to say the article is out there? I'm not going to infuse opinion on you, but try for read on yourself. And to your opinion, what the brother tried to do was to create an open mind, wrote an article on the circumstances. What is happening? Why is it happening? You know, the who, what, why, how, all of it inside the same article. But some of us are so petty-minded that probably on one line, judgment was made. And none of this is true, because I read the article myself. I could have issues of the article, but the way it's being judged is unfair on the author. But coming back, to the issue where we talk about, it's like there's double standards on the part of the international community. The international community need for make a rule where now everybody it cover or every situation or everything. Yes, you go give due consideration to waiting at the nature of the thing, but you can't just cherry pick and choose, just like waiting ECOWAS or whatever you call it for do. That in Guinea, nothing was done. We know say the how you call Paconde, it features with the constitution. But why didn't you, and say, well, this is my submission, why didn't you look at the fidgeting of the constitution at that point? In other words, nipping the issue in the bud whilst it's in the making, instead of waiting for let it happen, and then later on you won't come into the program because somebody else upset within the nation. And this is what happened in Guinea. The Conde, it fidget with the constitution. He changed the constitution for go for a third term. He killed a lot of people. I remember saying they assembled them na Domna Dixon. That's the Domna that I go multiple times. Once upon a time, I live in Guinea Conakry in Donka by the hospital, by the army barracks. I lived there. Another vicinity there, very well. Dixon, Donka, Bellevue, Usawi, Embassy. I lived there. The man doctored the constitution. They allow for doctor the constitution. You not stop the. When people within decide say this is what you do so, then at the time you want for grab. That is not right. It cannot be right. Similar thing in Niger.
I want to hold the make I ask because again I've been not talk on Nandi, but we bring them back. We bring the issue again so that we go trash them out properly. I've been not ask these questions, and I've been done again, like I've been done be the devil's advocate. Now I say, for example, the coup don't happen na Guinea, Conakry, it don't happen Mali, it don't happen Burkina Faso. But again, if it don't happen na Niger, why na Niger? Then they try for say, okay, we reverse this coup. But critics then, if you say critics then go get points for say there has to be line. We have to draw the line. If you say that for draw the line now in Niger, say, you know what, we know they encourage this because if we allow this for continue, then the whole of West Africa military they take over.
Sekou John, they've drawn the lines before, but they are not sincere because it's like picking and choosing. This is the fact. Which suit them, then they go act on the basis of which suit them. You make a good point. Draw the line. Coups will not be tolerated. And a few years ago, they said the same things, that we will not allow a coup plotting again for happen. But then, in that same vein, we've seen a number of coups will happen and not take action. So it begs the question, why now in Niger did you decide for be so vociferous, for be so authentic in the sense that it is now? And this is what I say to you, the viewers, them. This is at the behest. I've said this before in a different sense, but this is at the behest of the international community, i.e., in this case, the issue of France, the economic interest of France, a major industrial global power, is threatened. The relationship between countries and the former colonial powers is an arranged one. I say in one because that is why Francophone, for example, they continue for use the French currency. They continue for have the reserves in French banks. They continue for pay colonial tax 60 some more years after obtaining independence. And they've been enjoying this for a while. But there is a new beginning, Sekou John, which is happening in the continent. This is a fact, except you know, get yai and yes for yeri, which is there are many people kicking against this now. Say, but you are a pass mark. You sabi where somebody they oppress you, or even as a small boy, you get somebody where they bully you over and over, and you don't get any other way out. One is say, John, you the tower, and say, but you know what? I can't go through the wall. I can't do that. So I have to fight back. This is exactly what they happen. So the French defend themselves in a situation in which these African countries are becoming very, very opposed to them. You know, new, they're opposed to Burkina Faso, where once upon a time they had this huge influence. They opposed them now, Ivory Coast, where they had huge influence, and they still get influence there because why? If we understand why Laurent Gbagbo was kicked out, you see, it's complex. It's a complex situation. Why Laurent Gbagbo out? Why you get people like Alassane Ouattara, who is subservient to the former colonial power France. That's why he's being kept there. France get too much interest in Ivory Coast, just like how they get interest now other few African countries them. And in this case, Niger, when are the topic of today, because yellow cake means uranium. The interest of France economically as a power state is threatened because the energy when they use for power the reactor, the nuclear reactor, for produce energy, when I produce light, so it's like with me and you, Britain, we are enjoying this light now through a reactor means. How then they generate that? We need for know. If that is threatened, then definitely go take action. And me and you go set, even if they come out at the disadvantage, people will look like me and you, probably in a salon. But the idea, me, you, they enjoy them. As we speak so now, we've got electricity 24/7. Me and you are talking over the an hour. And before me and you begin talk, you've been talk for something like another hour. So 2 hours undisrupted electricity. But this power they come out on side, but it also the other people. So coming back again to the French connection, now the economic interest is threatened. Now it make you read them without mincing their words, say we will invade Niger. But it's not
And
going to happen because
yeah, I mean they read something back where really like one of the companies now where they operate now Niger they talk say well then the work still the operation still they go on. It is not uh, like interrupted. So it's like they are more particular like in protecting the interest because I remember when Macron even say well, if anybody
the
threaten
interest.
one, then people them and their interest, they're not going to take a lightly with the person, then thing and day. But I guess something again, way very
Absolutely.
important. Before we go, I go one for let you clarify again one thing, or maybe few things. Sorry, I'm not to one thing. We see the juntas then at now West Africa. We see Mali and Burkina Faso and Guinea then come together and say then they support this Nigerian the Niger, the military day. And even Mali and Burkina Faso then went further, they issue a communique and say, well, in fact, then shock for see ECOWAS then, they threaten for go reverse a coup. And while then Sidon they not do nothing, we then country are Mali and Burkina Faso are a victim to terrorists then. But they not do nothing. They not help them for go fight landed and they
Yeah.
not do nothing. But they want go reverse a coup. So then say now then they mobilize the army for help for protect Niger. So what do you feel say West Africa they head to if this year go on?
Brilliant question. But just before I go into that, Fambulem, This now the then mob, TNN mob. Yesterday we used the SLPP one, but today the TNN mob we use because we are internationally connected. We are using the Liberian, things. And just for reminder now, a few days ago on July 26, 1847, Liberia attained their independence. It's a controversial independence because there are questions asked, but now would that be Olem, as a colonial power? Nobody not be really colonized the United States. So there's a history there. But again, that's for a different time. But this not the morgue. As soon as I can see, that's the Lone Star, okay? And this now the then and now logo, and then the mug. But going back to the question we, my dear friend and brother asked, very, very important. Very important. There are a few things then we need for understand. First of all, Brother Sekou, already don't say the ECOWAS, they not got the moral authority, especially the chairman, the chairperson, with the Nigerian elected leader, Tinubu. He does not have the moral authority. The issue here is it sounds like, strength is might. So the Nigerians or Nigeria is the most powerful entity within the organization, and then get wherewithal to subdue a few nations, not many nations. Probably they can subdue the Gambia, they can subdue few other nations with smaller army, but not many other nations, and probably they cannot even subdue Niger. The issue here is Burkina Faso and Mali, they made a good case. I wonder who that would disagree with that. Because if you get more authority and they say, this is what we stand for, that we not go tolerate coup plots and what have you, then why didn't you condemn the coups even in your own country where we overthrew? What did you do? You put an ultimatum, don't say 1 week, if you not give up and put that president back, we can't invade you. No, they did not. The question here is, why Niger? And this is what brings me to the conclusion, say, now because then they under pressure from the same international community. In this case, France. The economics of France is threatened because yellow cake from uranium from Niger, now in the power the French reactor system where they produce light now France. And if this is threatened, and I don't say this again before, Western nation them, now the only time way then they take action instantly, like anybody else. If somebody can attack me in my house, even I've been on a play civil, then I me playground, then this, that. But I didn't me privacy in my house. I try for be conservative and what have you. But when you bring the fat can of me house, I have to fight back. Now, this night they happen now with France. For a long time, my brother, over 50 and beyond before independence, France don't they exploit the nation there, just like any other colonial powers. The people of Mali, the people of Burkina Faso, the valiant people, them I will call them, they say, well, enough is enough. And latest one in Niger, they say, guess what? While the ECOWAS, they plan, say, will they go invade and pull people that come on power? What a load of bull hog, your BS, will they go pull in power? Shameful, indignified, undignified. Now, the government of Algeria, because you need a base and you need support, and all them people they are within this union. So within the union alone, you get about a number of countries where you get dissenting views as to the proposition where you make it, you go invade. They say, no, we not agree. So that means you go there, if you ever did go there, you go there divided. You are going there divided. Algeria don't say, we're not going to tolerate this. Burkina Faso say, we are not going to tolerate this. Mali say, we are not going to tolerate this, and few other countries. So that means there is an impact or a division within the ECOWAS body itself. How are you going to...
Yeah, but I think, say, for example, say Algeria and North Africa, but then they're part of Sahel region.
Yes, I agree. But the idea is that in the of the Sahel region and decide, say, well, we plan soldier man them, yeah, so we don't agree. It's a voice. And Algeria is anti-colonialist, is anti-French. They fought a brutal war against the French. They lost millions of their people them because they want freedom. So when it comes to the French issue, then they show solidarity with other people and when they go against France. This is the logic. So that they basically and practically against France. That's what the situation is. But coming down to the Sahel itself, West Africa, you get Burkina Faso, you get Mali, a few other countries we're saying. And remember, say, the countries there, then they inside ECOWAS. So there is a split within ECOWAS. In other words, there is no consensus. Before you go undertake the operations there has to be a consensus. But there's no consensus because there are dissenting views within the organization itself that no, we not agree. If the people of Niger support the coup, then the coup not right, but there are people who support them. So what are you going to do? Drive a division between the people?
Yeah, also, thank you so much for that. Before we go, I want to clarify something again. We see also Africa, the world is struggle economically right now. We see country the economy then they really like they don't weak. People in the suffer, and Nigeria is not exception. Sierra Leone the same, and other country than West Africa. Even for take care of their own citizens themselves, they're not able or then they struggle. So and the West back no they help them for do or the help where they give is very small. So how you feel say ECOWAS go sustain such a war?
Seko, I think that is a very good question. But the point here is the leaders of ECOWAS, especially the senior leadership, it's about saving their own skin, my brother. That's what they are trying to do, save their own skin. Because they are not sure. They pretend to have come to power through the issues of the ballot box, but it is a very contentious result. So therefore, they know that anything can happen. A coup plot, which I don't support, because in my maxim and my training, I prefer the worst civilian government as opposed to that of a military government. But if we give a military government the opportunity by not respecting the norms of democracy, then the military government, in terms of coup plots, will take place. And the people don't revolt against the coup plotters because why? When are the civilians the way supposedly they voted for, the will of the people exemplify or not show or reflect the election results. So people are aggrieved. And when they're aggrieved, but there's not much they can do, and the military they can take over. When the military take over, you need for the enjoyment of people that will turn up on the streets. Are they in a joyous mood for the takeover? Do they have dissenting views? They not agree with the takeover. This is where the judgment is. So back again to the question is like there is an insincerity of the people them we supposedly supposed to come through the rule of the ballot system, but then rig their way into the ballot system. And because there is this disenchantment, this disgruntlement, this grievance against the system, and people and get for beer, it give rise to army people them taking over. And when they take over, they get respect and the response of the people and when they jump on the street and celebrate them. Such is what we are seeing in Niger, Niamey, the capital, in which the French embassy is being stoned, just like Judas. This is symbolic. This is a typical of when you not accept something, have to kill them off because you're not able to feed them. But once you get the opportunity, like in the Arab world or the Muslim world, George Bush, people when you pull you off back, you throw out at somebody, That's the most disgraceful thing, as I understand from friends and brothers from that region, where you can do. And the same thing that happen now, Seko.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. And then lastly, uh, we see again where the military get a lot of people for support, and the people are determined. And you see, okay, we know now the how, okay, if Niger na the second largest supplier for uranium na Europe, and then added to the French investment, even though you don't make the case already, say na exploitative relationship, like Niger no they get wetin they really supposed forget. And when you dey read report, you see which side dem dey say Niger na the poorest country in the world, how France they give them aid, then don't cut off the aid. Like,
Exactly.
what think really can na you mind?
Seku, it's another good question. Me, dear brother, I am really disgusted. I am really, really disgusted. Because just like I say, the relationship, as transactional as it is so unfair, it's so that now side no more. Now in they enjoy this benefit, that then look down on people and will look like me and you. Even though the benefit, the greatness of France in many respects, whether they get nuclear reactor, they get nuclear bomb, the side who they derive the energy from is an African country. That's the bottom line. And people are not getting the equal share as opposed to waiting in the extract from this African country. And as we speak today, do you know that most of the deals are shrouded in secrecy? In secrecy. The French does not reveal it. Neither does the people that when they do the deal with does reveal it, which is a close-guarded people. The French district, the financial district, just like how you get Wall Street in New York and other countries, the tallest building in that financial district in France, or most powerful building, now the energy building where they extract uranium from Niger. The tallest building, the most important building in that French district there. But yet the deals are shrouded in secrecy. Why? 21st century. And the same country called Niger is still paying colonial tax to a former colonial master. 60 plus more years after independence. Something not correct, brother.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. I think say we dey come end the program. But let's just read for you something where you really you had the poil, because they say Niger is one of the poorest countries in the world, receiving close to $2 billion a year official development assistance according to the World Bank. Imagine they get all this year, they say then they receive that kind of money as assistance.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Seku. They get all this, they get all of this. And 2 billion, now huge money. But with waiting, then they serve the other side where they give them the 2 billion. Over these many years, it make the sum of 2 billion infinitesimal, minute. Uranium, one of the most sought out mineral. And if you can remember, they match up to the 2003 invasion of Iraq. One of the things that will make Niger famous now, because the CIA of the United States, the Intel Service, International Intel Service of the United States, the CIA, back in 2003 towards the invasion march of Iraq, Niger suddenly became a very important country. Because why? They lie by Niger. They say Saddam Hussein, they get uranium from Niger, which was a lie. They set up, of course, you're aware. But that's how important this story is. And the idea is, waiting this country is blessed with one of the few things that is blessed with, in this case, uranium. Now, it not become in cost. And other people that are powerful are using that to their advantage and disadvantaging the people of Ukraine. Little wonder why you see in pictures that many years after where this coup happened and they stoned the French embassy. Stone them because they're so upset. This is the way the people can express their upset, their
Interestingly,
anger
na,
by
na the
stone.
same thing. Na the same thing dem do na Burkina Faso where dem go burn. In fact, they na burn the embassy. Because okay,
There we go. Yeah,
what more disheartening now? Now, when, for example, let's say we go to Europe, for example, and check na France, check who side the blacks the way migrate from Africa, who side in the settle, whose facilities then get it. And so the way then they look at them, like say, now people and now pauper them, where they just come for come because they not get leaders, no, of course, they're not leaders, they know they na that side, na Africa. We dey talk about we elect the continent, elect the citizens there. Otherwise, voting there, but they are now they can pretend as if they know the thief, they know they exploit the African continent. Like now, in this case, France, they pretend like say they know they benefit from Niger, or they know what is a look when they say
absolutely.
then how France na voting na security and development partner ally with Niger. Can you imagine? So not just on
Rubbish.
paper, I like, but then
Rubbish.
una they exploit the country. Look at Nigerians, look where them in the protest. You they see the suffering at their faces. No job, no all nothing they know they get. Suffering. Then later now una they get a all thing, but una they suppress back densities in the way they run away from una exploitative as a result of una exploitation in Africa. They run come to una na Europe, then the European leaders them back go put all kind of still on them against them people that will not want foreigner, they will not want una they can, but una they live on Africans' blood. Who's still Africa leaders then go wake up?
My dear brother, I feel your pain. And when you express and you know, you became a bit emotional. This is something that I've done many a times. Because now the reality, I mean, we can't hide them. First of all, we African people, we are emotional people who they express yourself is an emotional way. Even when they talk, we argument them, the strength, the fervor, the interest is all African because it's emotional. We mean them. And these are serious questions that you ask. But until we, and I say this again, Secretary John, until we as a people come together and understand exactly what you just say so, how much we dey suffer, how much others are using us, despite in we wealth, they make we for appear as if we poor. The social engineer we bring them that even I give you an example. Muammar Gaddafi was killed. Sekou John, he was killed by Western powers. 30 days,
France.
some of us don't
The same
understand why he
France.
was killed.
The
Yeah,
same France.
yeah, no, I exactly the border. Yeah, Sekou John. I know this not something where you understand, but it's incumbent upon me and you and others we understand this for continue to make the case. Because why? Some of us have been brainwashed so much that because we they enjoy the gratitude of this government, we also they play to with disadvantage of the many back home. So therefore, we cannot criticize the so-called proverbial hand where they feed we. So we need for zip up, we need for shut up. Are you serious? Are we serious? And this is exactly what the West does. Gaddafi was on the verge of changing this course of history forever and ever. He decided for bringing a currency and many other things them way go change the course of we situation. And because of that, he signed in death warrant. Then go kill him. Just like how they kill Patrice Lumumba before him. These issues are deep. And Fambulem, in many discourse with many of the people that I have these conversations with, they don't go in depth. And Boku thinks them, they don't understand it as such. The concept, the idea, the philosophy, the ideology, it doesn't go back. Pan-Africanism, colonization, slavery, neo-colonization, decolonization. And then they happen so now as we see them na Niger. But when you try for make that case day, because you there and you get one motor car where you dey drive, forget it for no say you get for grab na money for go work for pay for that motor car day. You get one house where you mortgage. Forget it for no say you get for grab for go work inside the system for pay for that house day. But because these are available to us and they're not available back home, and we are in the few, not in the many, we brothers and sisters are saying, shut up, just put up with it. But then, of course, we can shut up and put up with it. But the question here is, how about the vast majority back home? Should they also shut up and put up with it? Should the people of Burkina Faso, who finally got enough and say, we are not having it? The head of state been in Russia recently, and that's a different topic for a different day. They say we are not having it. The people of Mali, the valiant people of Mali, if you imagine, if you study African history, where we talk about the African colors, red, gold, and green, just look at Mali. And there are a few other countries then where you look at their flag, now they get them colored and the red, gold, and green. I wonder how many of us understand that. How many of us understand, Modibo Keita? How many of us understand Nanmi Azikiwe? How many of us understand Patrice Lumumba? How many of us understand Samora Machel? How many of us understand Samori Toure? How many of us understand Agostino Neto? How many of us understand all the fighters they awakened before we get we independence? So just because we there now, and remember say myself they are, and we get this provision, but we they work for them. We didn't have house, we they pay mortgage, we they pay
no,
rent.
before you dey go,
But
before
12
you dey
hours
go,
of the
yeah, before you dey go, la just what you dey talk so somebody who the text when Almami Conte, he say, so can we all return and never come back to Europe or America so we can make our countries? He laugh. He say, we don't need to say anything about the West because we all run to them for living. But again, what in Conte they fail for realize again, now the same exploitative mentality or the like no matter what we the kaya, but again, then still they exploit we. Then still they exploit because the system
exactly.
don't they now. A lot of people, even the leaders, them the system where they under now. Where you go just now, for example, you don't begin go speak out. If you not take the night in the jail, you brothers them look no more like now. For so say the system is very difficult. I don't go say easy, easy for change, but it's difficult. Now, not to the leaders, the West African leaders, not to them the Europeans, France included with US, not to them in the push for go attack their own brother country. So this nine the thing is it's very difficult. And then country are back, mean say where you there now for feasibility life for God. No, you they work, you they pay you tax.
Absolutely. And
So
this time we
even
not seem for understand, Sekou
yeah,
John, that with the work, with the
recently,
with the pay
even
with tax, alhamdulillah that we there.
yeah. So even recently, this the conservative party now they count some policies where they say okay now they get certain thing for do where they get for spend money, but what thing they do now if you they apply from Africa, if whether a student waiting say you they pay for NHS, then don't increase the prices, visa fee then they increase up all thing then now from una then they pull out now you blood now you blood baby now then they suck. So I mean, it just but the leaders, of course, we say get one problem. We get for can talk on so many issues, especially about salon. But today now this will they focus on the exploitation. The leaders they need for open their eyes. We need wise leaders, not to one the way they go try for protect and fend legitimacy through them kind way. Yeah.
Yeah, you are absolutely right, brother. And I like the way you put them. And brother Conte, we can get dissenting views, but we love you very much, and especially so as a brother and friend. But what we need for understand is like for everything that we do here, we pay for it. But blood, sweat, and tears. And long before me and you they come, others then paved that way. They suffered with their lives. And at that now you need to understand. But we are no less of a human being. And if you don't understand, say the relationship is exploitative, but you just happy that when you come, okay, probably you country where you be there, you know me ever get the opportunity for ever drive a car, forever own a horse where you go can put your key and turn it inside and go. So you're so grateful. We understand that, but that does not make it right. We are a people, for goodness sake. And then we get for respect that.
Yeah, yeah. Now, so anyway, I think say I don't know whether you get more for ad. Other than that, we don't knock. I think almost 2 hours, not so. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway, fumble them. I think say, what do you get for
Yeah,
say then?
okay.
We what one left give fumble them.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Seiko. And what I want to give with the Fambulem is very, really profound. Um, it's important, mind you, and I repeat, it's important that we understand
Okay,
we
wait,
ourselves
wait.
as a people.
Before you say that, and before you complete that, also somebody don't raise up something way I want for you clarify. We dey see, for example,
Absolutely.
now you dey see e just start like say now when you pull your shoes, they say other person can take her. But now we dey see, for example, now the pattern wey dey happen so, as France left Mali, they will see Russia don't come take through the mercenaries them. We see back it happen like more or less now Burkina Faso then they contemplate that. What do you think? You don't think say Russia they slowly take over?
Um, Sekou John, in me concluding note, that's exactly what I go for address. But again, once more, thanks for the opportunity. So, Fambulem, of course, I will be talking about that. And in short, but we need for understand, say, even we as a people, why cannot we have we self, because we exist, in some sphere in which we get our own culture, we get our own tradition, we get our own science, and what have you. Why can't we just exist in that framework there? Now, on the issue of Russia, of course, I'll be one for address that. Um, we condition, first of all, we are being conditioned, and the condition not begin today. It goes back like decades and centuries, and then continue for do that for condition we condition. But this we condition, yeah, with the condition, it's like in their own behalf, because it's like shaping we opinion for believe that they are right, waiting and they tell we. But Fabulem, whilst I go expatiate a little bit on the Russian issue, but one of the things they want jog on our mind with, did Russia ever put chains on we forefathers their hand and their foot? A pause for effect, let us sink in. And I ask the question one more time. Did Russia ever put chains now we forefathers their hand or their foot? The question asked, the answer is simple. It's a big capital No. Russia not colonized we. They had no colonial ambition for go around and begin for take territories. No, they never had. But some of the notion where we dey go with, now waiting the West don't condition we for think as if the order is ugly, the order is bad, the order is of no good, is of no use. Whereas the opposite is true, which is they are ugly, they are wrong. Now they colonize we, now then tie we on them, now then chain we, now then pillage we, now then rape we mama them. That's true. Have you ever thought about this? But they don't condition we for things say, no, no, because they don't want to let you think that way they so then shift the blame to the other. But me, they tell you, say today, the Russians when they try for demonize, they not do that. And I can go on and on and on because we need for explain this, but we out of time and we get for respect the time. But waiting they happen now is in this new dispensation of the world order, based on how them, structure this construct where we dey go by, say, oh, well, now even though na them wrong, but they make the other people then for be wrong. The other people then are the them on them. Ever put a chain na me great granddaddy in hand. But the Russians help we for fat colonialism. In Russia, as we speak today, not only today, going back to the 60s and 50s, there is a university of one of the greatest African legend ever, Patrice Lumumba. Patrice Lumumba. How many of you now when they watch this program or we go watch and later know Patrice Lumumba and the history? So at the big una, if una not be ever understand and sabi this, una please try for do a background research on who was Patrice Lumumba, because gradually we will get for understand with history and the demonization of we the people them would have killed Patrice Lumumba. Why was he killed? Why was Kwame Nkrumah overthrown, the great Osajifo of Ghana? Why was he overthrown and eventually died in exile in Guinea? Why? We need for understand all of these things. Amilcar Cabral, Walter Sisulu of South Africa, Nelson Mandela before he became president. Then they say him a terrorist simply because he tried for defending people. The same people they want to defend so because they don't make we for understand they are good. They make Jesus white. He get blue hair. He get blonde hair. They make him white. So we some of we before we go sleep this night, Jesus now in we do what before we lay down we said we are now that white Jesus now we see. Are you serious? Are you kidding me? 21st century? You not catch this yet? Seko, I can go on and on, but we really need for end this program because you touch a side of me where they sort of bring out a revelation for conscientize with fellow Africans them how we are being socially engineered. And we can go on and on because it's a different subject matter altogether. We require an entire program. And I shall say we've done enough of this. But Fambule again, on behalf of the channel, then and now, in terms of the question the brother asked, decolonize your mindset, set yourself free, become objective and become a critical thinker. It's not what you are told. And we never say you're not for listening to what you are being told, but digress, listen what you are being told and try to make sense out of them. The Russians never colonize us. As we speak today, let's fast forward and for end the program and even back to the host. The Russians have wiped away 23 billion of we debt. 23 billion clean, then wipe them away. In terms of the conflict where they ongoing in Ukraine, where they talk about grain and wheat. Now listen, grain and wheat. They make we for one for believe say the Russians are the ugly side, which is not new. Say now then they deprive we. And in fact, now the Africans them they are so poor that they need the grain. You need for go study, do your own research and understand say some people them where they benefit from the grain are European nations. Spain is a huge benefactor. Turkey made so much millions out of this grain business. But waiting the Russian do recently in terms of their president, when they host 17 African nations, 17 African leaders. I know say the West they try for make a mockery out of Anseku John because the last time it was 43. Today, now 17. Why 17? Why not 43? But all 49 or 50 nations had representative there. Some of we other country them, then they under pressure. For example, we countries alone. You know, say matter be like for fly. Don't tell we I go continue for fly. And a day it is used for yeah, in whatever. But it not go this because it is under pressure. In people the way they control and tell and say you cannot go, you need to stay away because that will help for make the numbers. So if Russia been get 43 the other day, now 17 and get and Salon make that numbers day, you probably go get 20 or 50 million. This is the new reality, Seko John. And then Marabio stay away. The man way I go continue for fly and they make him in cash. That's where he makes his cash. Can you imagine? He stay away from this summit. But going back again to the Russian summit, the Russians have also said, my dear brother, that they will give free grain. This nothing will be opposed to. But after I don't read the text from the Russian foreign ministry and understand what he really say, he say countries then, because we do have countries in Africa we can't afford for pay for the grains. So now the gratitude and magnanimity of the Russian people and president, they say that they give it free. And not be like that what they free because we will get from compromise on thing. But the text also say there are countries where able for pay. And then countries that they were able for pay with the same African setup, we they give them special condition like discount and what have you, where any other country can do. Second John, exactly the Russians do. But the country we are still attending, that country them, because why? There's a war ongoing, and if you weak, you not get for show up, because if you show up, the West, Marabio not go, because Marabio they're under pressure. If you go just now, at 20 million or billion, 20 million or billion, lie, grant where they're supposed to give you will not be given. So now the situation and the I also want to say something, Seko John, on this basis of Russia and this question where you ask. Yeah. So, like I say, 17 African leaders them in attendance. The last time there been 42 or 43 of them in there. And the West tried to make a mockery of this. But every African country had a representative in that meeting day, which is a good thing. And we understand why some of them not show up. But the strongest of them, South Africa, Ethiopia, and you name it, they were there. And then new African nations, they are what we talk about in this program. Burkina Faso, for example, was there. The man wearing military, attire and was speaking. And we get Wagner, the Russian military contract group, where they operate now in Africa. I'm not happy about this, but other groups are operating. So if we get a countermeasure, why shouldn't we, my brother? Every country will get representative day. If we can go back to the Cold War, the USSR, in other words, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, then we get a huge representation, my brother, because then we will get a multipolar world. The USSR collapsed in the 1980s. Was it in the 1980s? Yeah, I think so, in the 1980s. And then from that point to now, we get a unipolar world. Now that under that unipolar world, now we begin to see the invasion of countries because America no more in the Western powers then and them in the lead. Iraq, 1990, and 2003, Yugoslavia, the Bosnia-Herzegovina, the Muslims, and what have you, we create some of the problems we face now. But Russia has risen up and say we are no longer agreeing, but inside apartheid South Africa, this is important. The Russians also help the Africans against apartheid. Most Africans don't know this. And again, like I say, me and you there. But I have no doubt, my brother, that you get a critical mind because you're there, so you cannot hold a critical mind because you also attend school now. And waiting in school say, despite you go call on like double standard, but they ask you for have a critical mind. You can't just support because you feel say, hey, say Nayaswa day emotionally, I can't condemn them. No, you'll be a laughing stock. So they encourage we for have a critical mind. The USSR helped we for fight apartheid in South Africa, while Margaret Thatcher, the British Prime Minister in the 1980s, they called Nelson Mandela a terrorist. Russia was helping arms, ammunitions, and training. Same Russia today. So anyway, when the USSR collapsed, that relationship before then, the African countries, then, if you remember, and I should say you remember this, then they give scholarship to Africans. And the African they when they get the scholarship to now people them second journal they don't soon I see the yawn you need for sleep. The people
No, what
when
happened?
they give the scholarship to
Ask.
now
I
people
want really for wait. I want really for ask you questions because now you don't talk so
sure.
many good things about Russia and the relationship with Africa. But you know, fit say if Africans they not take them, they go fall back, then go sit down back and complain against Russia, like how would they complain so against the Europeans, the EU, the France, and the other countries them. Because they find out say voting at the equal again, bargaining powers, the equal powers between Russia in terms of goal na Africa and the relationship na Africa.
I think this is not the most brilliant question where you asked in this entire episode. Of course, there were very few questions, but the most brilliant question where you ask. And before I digress, let me agree with you 100%. Yes, the Africans will. But we therefore also keep in the back of our mind say we are making a comparative analysis between two people, two entities, two different times. That's what we are doing. So yes, there will be a time when Africans then will question all of this. But for the better part of the century, if not beyond, Second John, for 5 centuries, the West has enjoyed hegemony. Hegemony. Hegemony with a capital H. That hegemony there is being challenged. Before then, it was just them wanting and say that in the past. So yes, people will question the new Russian sentiment, but the Russians are just only fighting back. The Russians will make provision also for the Africans then for can study now Russia, give them university graduate and undergraduate opportunities, them pay them stipends, but then they look for the poorest of African people and we cannot afford. But then we country then also we come out, for example, the Shaka Stephen government, then politicize them, then begin for selling things there, even to people who could afford, whereas the intention was for people who could not afford. But the idea is they make them provisions there. The Russians help for fed South Africa, they help for fed imperialism na Angola, na Mozambique, and all of that. So this is the renaissance that we are talking about and the contribution we they make. It's very important for understand that in this context. And then at some point, they fade away because then self begin for catch hard time. From the USSR, now you get the Russian Federation, and then they try for rejuvenate them program there. Don't begin to make offers to Africans all over again for can study. But it's the new geopolitics. But back to the question we asked, if I catch the question well, Seku, we Africans need for understand that we did between the rock and a hard place. In other words, between the superpowers. How do we play the game between the superpowers is important on how we go emerge. Okay? A, you get China, you get Russia. You get the United States and the United Kingdom, France, Germany, the Western world as a whole. We are the disadvantaged child. So we need for play with game well. We really need for play with game well so that we go emerge. So the point here is now how we play with game, understanding both sides and waiting now we needs and objectives and the desired outcome. That should be our strategic objective so that we go realize a desired outcome, the goal. But until then, I mean, we remain Africans. Thanks, Sekou.
Okay, Fambulem, thank you so much, Prince, for that brilliant. In fact, some man they say you na historian, you na history lecturer. But thank you so much for this, and then we hope say we believe say we don't learn a lot from this conversation, and then we really appreciate una all na the comment box. We all what you na like una comment them. But like again, like before we close the program, we the advocate, for example, we leaders them for open their eyes, not to for open their eyes when it comes to them France and other country. Then no, even with Russia and China, it should not be business as usual. And I make a glad for this guy na Guinea who he take over. He said then get for check, then get for look all contracts existing contracts them with between Guinea, Russian companies and other companies them. So I believe say what in the leaders they're supposed to do now for watch them contract then they renegotiate, make the contract them benefit the citizens of that country there. Not for just, but the whole problem we will get now the selfish leaders, selfish, wicked leaders they will get in Africa. Most of them look no more. Most of them they get accounts then na Switzerland and other European countries. But anyway, we thank you now all. Now so we end the program for today. Until then, this na Cycle John. We get for bring other programs and for una, but una just stay tuned. Una follow we Facebook pages and the WhatsApp groups. Them we go notice una when we get other programs. Them, but definitely we get for come. We believe say we get for can talk about agriculture in our country. We hear Sierra Leone people in the alala for yabas expensive and other thing. We have been do short article on that, but we get for come to now, we get for explain to. We really need for wake up. If we dey bash again, then exploiters them, the West and other thing them. People the way they go exploit we say need for stand up. But we get for come to now. Until then, this na Cycle John Barry and this na the then and now media empire. So until then, I say goodbye.